Yeah, we have nobody in here, which is not really surprising. We'll wait and see if. Oops. Let me shut down. Which is not really surprising. There we go. Oh, hey, we have two. Well, that's yeah. Welcome. Uh, would rather be here under other circumstances. Still kind of trying to gather my thoughts. It's going to take a while to sort this game. If I had made 100 predictions, I don't think I would have covered anything that happened on either side of the ball. Um, I mean, yeah, West Virginia shot themselves in the foot more often than they have feet. Well, per individual, I suppose. And they found new ways mostly to do it. I'm actually happy with a number of things. I'll get to some of those, I suppose. Um, hey, Nick D TV, you're the do. All right. Um, Now to actually talk football instead of trash. Uh, I mean, hey, the first drive, nice, long, well executed drive, got the 7. The first drive for Iowa State, they got a couple of good gains, and then the D stopped them. That looked a whole lot like the Oklahoma State game. And then West Virginia got the ball back and drove down. And it was looking a lot like it was going to start like the Oklahoma State game did. Then Gallagher couldn't hold the pass. Would have been a first down. I can't say whether it was a good play by the defender or a bad play by Gallagher or a bit of both. I tend to think he should have caught it. He probably thinks he should have caught it. And then you know, a top quality kicker misses. Of course, it was scripted. Neil Brown scripts like the first 15 plays. You got a point? Huh? You got a point? It was well scripted. It was well executed. So you got a point? Huh? Um, yeah, that's what I was saying. But I mean, I don't know, misses the field goal and the momentum shifted. I mean, I think Gallagher makes that catch. We get the field goal. I don't know how much difference it makes, but it makes a difference. But then Yates, I mean, Yates is experienced. Yates, I mean, he may snap a little high, but to have that many snaps that are bad enough to destroy the play, I mean, 4 plays, I think. um, Now, they didn't happen late in the game. So something corrected, but it was kind of late. I mean, the team was doing better, doing reasonably well. And, I mean, Green turned one of them into a long scramble, but 3 of them essentially were drive killers. And then after Green's scramble, he throws a terrible pass. I mean, it was what, 3, 4, 5 feet behind Taylor. The announcers, talked like the defender had thrown Taylor off or slowed him down or something, but no, Taylor was gone. The pass was just bad. It was Green from 2 years ago, or you know, Well, last year Green would have just thrown it too hard and thrown it over the head or something. But I mean, it was a bad pass. It was not what I expect from this year's Garrett Green. Um, I don't care what ID you use to get in here. No, I don't agree with you. Uh, the team, the team messed up in a number of ways. I think if anybody had said Iowa State scores 28 points, 7 of them late, they figure West Virginia wins. Um, I don't. I think if anybody said Brandon Yates has 4 terrible snaps, nobody would have taken that bet. Um, and I think, I mean, of course, Green was green late, but I think he was thrown off by a lot of the messes. Uh, Neil Brown doesn't. I hope Neil Brown coaches here for 20 years. Neil Brown is a coach straight out of the sports books I grew up reading. Uh, things haven't gone, the bounces haven't worked, but Green is a good coach. So you can stop that. And don't claim that you used to support Neil Brown because you bounce off of the bandwagon like you're on springs. Um, um, well, if you want to be official, I actually am very, significantly above average intelligence. So, and that includes in multiple types of intelligence. If you wanted to go head to head on that, odds are you would lose. Well, you know what? You actually are right. I do hate you. And I have a lot of people love you. I have my own reasons for hating you. You should know what they are, but we won't go into it. Um, can we have some better fans, some real West Virginia fans get in here? Um, I don't want to have to ban these guys, but I'm not going to let them dominate this chat with their crap. They want to hate Neil Brown. Whatever they say, they want to hate Neil Brown. They look for each and every opportunity. Now, I expected Clement and Ray to be open deep down the middle, down the side. Turned out Ray and Taylor were open over the middle all night long. It was the go-to play. Problem was, every time they'd get something going, we'd get a bad play from Green. And of course, we don't expect that from Green or Yates. And we don't, Yates is not the best blocker. He's average, but he's a good snapper. So I do not know. And of course, once you make a couple of bad snaps, it's in your head. I'm kind of impressed that he seemed to settle down. But by then, they lost their rhythm. The defense in the second half actually came out very strong. They were sharp. They still had, I think on the night, they had 3 breakdowns in coverage where one guy did not have the same coverage in mind that the rest did. That cost. That is still a problem. It wasn't as bad as it had been. Most of the night, coverage was actually good, not quite good enough. And I mean, well, actually, they missed a number of tackles tonight. That hurt. Last week they tackled amazingly well. 0 yards after catch because of the tackling last week. This week it wasn't there. Again, of course, partly that's because Iowa State has very big receivers, but they should have tackled better. A lot of the first downs were by 1 yard, 2 yards. I mean, it wasn't like 3rd and 4 and they were getting 15. It was 3rd and 4 and they were getting 5 or 6. On one, Beck made the run. Wilson came up and made a big hit on him, stopped him short, and Beck managed to fall forward. That was the first down. Iowa State made a number of good plays. Green's second interception, the Iowa State I know you're enjoying this. You are happy because we lost. You are happy to come in here after being banned under your regular name and just try to make trouble. All you're actually doing is revealing to people who you really are. And it's not pretty. You're not a good person. You're not a smart person. And you don't know squat about football. I don't understand why people think you know what you're talking about. You do not put on a good visual presentation. You are not a good speaker. Most of the people you hire, let's just stick with you. You don't do a good job and you don't know football. And then you want people to send you audition tapes showing their background, their presentation, and what they know about West Virginia football. Yeah. Tough luck, Joey. Hey, show me where I said anybody should be happy with this. I'm talking football. I'm talking reasons. I'm talking analysis. You're just emotion. There's no thought in what you and Joey are saying. You just want to throw things at somebody because you're throwing a tantrum. You're a child. You can't look at this and talk about what's going on, what's happening, why, what's good, what's bad. Yeah. So, hey, if you have something actual worthwhile to say it. If you don't, just get out of here. Go someplace where your type of childish behavior is appreciated, because this isn't it. This is for people who think and who really want things to go well. Um, Joey Foster, just in case anybody isn't clear on who this is, you're right. I am close to it. I'm close to banning you under this because you guys have nothing to say. You just want to come in here and throw manure, stir the pot. Yeah. You're not saying anything about what happened in the game. Yeah. What were the actual problems? No, you just want to blame the coach. And that's just because it's the easy answer, and that's all you're capable of looking at. You can't look past anything other than the simplest possible answer, regardless of right or wrong. And you don't even care right or wrong. You just want to blame somebody. Um, okay. Yeah, I mean that's that's it. I mean, Iowa State made pretty much zero mistakes. There may have been one or two minor ones. Um, I I wish West Virginia had been trying to strip the ball late in the game. They were making tackles, but they weren't going for the ball. The second guy up should be going for the ball, but I mean, West Virginia made too many mistakes. A lot of people said West Virginia has to avoid mistakes, and they didn't. I mean, the defense made mistakes, but they actually didn't give up a lot of points. Of those 28 points, I'd say 14 are on the offense for not doing their job. And at least in one case, I mean, after the interception, giving Iowa State a very short field. The defense, they managed to hold up when they needed to, even after some of those mistakes. And they were playing sharp and fast most of the second half. They really came out different in the second half. I was hoping the offense would too, um, but the mistakes were still there. Um, are you that much of a dimwit? Yes, actually, you've demonstrated it here. You are. I didn't blame the players. I discussed what the players did wrong. And if you check, the interviews coming up, the players will say the same thing. Derek Green threw behind Taylor. You know, you can see that. It's clear. Um, Brandon Yates had four very bad snaps. That is simply a statement of visible fact. I also said that's very unexpected. Yates I mean, I think he's run a tad high on snaps in the past. He's never had a game anything like this. He's had one, maybe two bad snaps total before this. I'm not blaming him. I don't know why it happened. I only know it happened. And I'm sure he will tell you that those snaps are probably his fault. I don't know, but he'll take, he'll accept the responsibility. He's not childish. Um, it's harder to say what a coach did right or wrong. We can see the players on the field. If a play goes badly, we often don't know. I mean, there were a couple of times when Green probably made the wrong decision. We can see some of that and make guesses. We don't know what the coach did. How you're out here wanting to blame the coach just because the team lost, but you don't know what the coach did or didn't do. I'm talking about things we can clearly, specifically see, like the missed pass interference call in the end zone when Iowa State is pulling on the jersey and the ref doesn't call it. Wouldn't affect the game. It was too late. They scored anyway on a very nicely designed and executed wheel route to Jaheim White. Um, Neil Brown normally calls the plays. It was a good play. So I'm going to say Neil Brown did something right. I can probably, you know, draw a line of reasoning for that. You haven't drawn any lines of reasoning. All you like to do is make claims with no substantiation. So, mm. I would actually have to go back and watch the replay. I probably will. I think you're wrong, because on most of those plays they were running something across the middle, which was what was open. It's why they converted several of the second and long, third and long. I'll rewatch the game, and I will check that. If you are so sure you're right, then you can post an example. At what you say it happened several times, so you should be able to name a drive, a quarter, an approximate time, something. Um, well, we can all be happy if Joey will live up to that, go away and stay away. I've already discussed, I mean, these people don't know the difference between discussion and blame. Same as they don't know the difference between an explanation and an excuse, reason and excuse. There are differences. Anyway, yeah, the missed grounding call. It was a bad call, but they punted. If they'd made the call, it would have been a 5-yard penalty, a loss of down, and they would have punted. Maybe a 5-yard difference on where West Virginia starts. I don't know. I mean, I think, the announcers kept mentioning some other missed calls. I didn't see them. Nobody specifically discussed them, so I'm not sure what they were. And a lot of those end up happening when we can't, when the camera is not on the player committing or the penalty. Now, I don't know what happened to Wyatt Milam on that holding. I mean, you can't call it anything else but holding when he picks the guy up off the ground. And it wasn't necessary. I don't know if he lost his temper for some reason or what, but he knows better. Again, I think that was, the game was fairly well decided by then. But it was just an example of not just things going badly, but it was 3 of the most experienced players on the team had, well, I won't say bad games because Wyatt Milam will probably grade out very well overall. But made mistakes. Again, these are mistakes that these people don't usually make. I don't know why I know, Green makes mistakes on some of his passes. He always has. He had mostly cleared that up this season. I suspect that, just the whole, screwiness of the game and things going badly probably threw him off a little bit, and then things went. They didn't throw every down. They were still running. They were not getting yardage when they ran. Iowa State had evidently made changes. And with the mistakes they made, they didn't have, I don't know how many plays they ran in the second half, but I don't think it was nearly enough to say they did too much of this and too little of that. There weren't enough plays because they didn't sustain drives because they made mistakes. And making mistakes, I mean, last week was close to a mistake-free game. So you can't say that they just, are mistake prone. They had issues with penalties earlier in the season. That was not one of the problems tonight, with a couple of exceptions, but we didn't have a lot of penalties. Uh, yeah, again, I mean, the total number of passes was higher than usual. I'd have to check. I need to count how many of those happened in what part of the game, what the score was. Um, but the pass was mostly working, I mean, especially across the middle. I mean, Ray and Taylor had a ton. Ray had a potential touchdown pass on a post route, but he was held or interfered with. I'm not sure which they called. And again, it was the right play by the defender because it was a choice between the penalty and a much longer gain and possibly a touchdown. The pass looked good. Ray almost caught it, even with the holding. So I think the pass would have been right on the money, and Ray would have caught it full stride. And the defender either dives, unless he makes a diving tackle, it's a touchdown. Um, so the pass worked, except when, I mean, the second interception was mostly a good play by Iowa State. The defender got up there just enough to tip the ball. If he doesn't, it looks like a good completion. If the receiver can turn upfield, it's a big completion. Uh, you know, if the ball had been 6 inches higher, um, the defender can't get it. Um, but then again, it may have been, if it was 6 inches higher at that point, it may have been too long for the receiver. So I can't say Green threw a bad pass on that one. It was, again, inches. Um, so yeah, I mean, I'm not going to, I'm not going to blame Green in any respect on that one. Um, let's see. Blah, blah, blah. Oklahoma State has issues. They also have talented players. Big reason Oklahoma State had so many problems in that game was because West Virginia played well. Watch the game with your eyes open, or at least or try watching with your mind open, which I think is going to be a little bit harder for you. Um, I mean, well, the middle was working. Uh, Now, they didn't manage to break anything on those passes. They got some decent yards after catch. Um, the Iowa State defense, I mean, they did a good job with the tackling. So, and actually against Baylor, Iowa State's tackling was terrible. But I'm sure the coaches focused on that to make sure it didn't happen again. And previously they had tackled well, so they just got back on track. And West Virginia the first half, they lost their edge on tackling. They got theirs back in the second half. So, I mean, Leslie did a good job adjusting in the second half. So did, the Iowa State defensive coordinator, which he's known for. Both defenses did well in the second half, particularly. Iowa State, I mean, they got that one really long drive. And then we had, a mistake by the for West Virginia offense and the West Virginia defense. But the number of bad plays by the defense wasn't big, and they compensated. There's the difference. The offense made more mistakes, and they weren't able to compensate for them enough. I mean, they would get into second or third and 12, 14 yards, something like that, and convert. And then they would, you know, bad snap, interception, something would happen that killed the drive after they had rescued the drive. So, I mean, the offense just after the first two drives, and specifically after the missed field goal, the offense never had their edge. Again, exactly why, I don't know, but they just weren't consistent. And that's a word we've used over and over and over again. Coach Brown talks about it. You have to make plays consistently. 4 consistent yards is better than 1 15-yarder and three 3 2-yard gains and punt or something like that. Well, consider this. Maybe it's because some of the gray-haired people who've been around a while have seen a lot. Maybe we know a bit. On the other hand, there are a whole heck of a lot of old guys who have wanted Brown out since Brown was hired. So I don't think it's an age thing. I haven't done a poll, but what Neil Brown is doing is good. It's good for the long term. It just, I don't know why it doesn't quite come together. But it's the team mostly played a good game tonight. Yeah, they lost by 2 touchdowns, but they mostly played a good game. But the mistakes they made were just killers. And again, they are mostly mistakes that you would not have expected them to make. Garrett Green is in transition. The things that he learned during the off season will eventually raise his game as a quarterback. But right now, I think they are kind of messing with his mind at times. And he makes wrong decisions where last year he may have made a better decision. On the other hand, the flip side of that is on his short to intermediate passes, his touch and accuracy are far better. I mean, from behind the line of scrimmage to 9 yards, last time I checked, his completion rate was 70% or 80%. But he still has issues. I mean, there were a couple of passes tonight that looked like the old Green. And I imagine when Green and Tyler Allen look at the film, Allen will probably point out a footwork problem if Green doesn't point it out first. That's interesting. I didn't notice that. Early in the game, they did have a lot of shifts going on. I don't know about motion. Would have to look at that. I wonder again if that's just something that they couldn't get into rhythm, and so they didn't run enough plays to bring that into the game. One good point: Justin Robinson had 2 catches tonight. One fairly well downfield, another short one. He's missed 2 games, I think, with injury. Ever since he made that really nifty touchdown catch that made us think we were going to beat Pitt. But having him back will be a big boost. Jaden Bray was out with an injury tonight. I don't think that affected anything. The receivers were not an issue tonight. They were doing fairly well. I don't know about blocking. I'll have to research that. But yeah. Well, that's a question I can't answer. If you can't answer it, then maybe you should decide where you do belong. There are reasons why the offense has taken time to develop. People have gone over them again and again and again and again, and some people refuse to, buy into it. The defense is not abysmal. The defense actually, most of the time, played fairly well tonight. A couple of the mistakes cost points. And again, one of the touchdowns was really on the offense for giving Iowa State a short field. Now, why Cignetti has had this success at Indiana, don't know. Will it continue? Don't know. Tell you what, Kirk H., if you don't know why you're here, then don't talk crap. You want to talk crap, go someplace else. If you want to discuss specifics, if you want to discuss particular things that happened, that didn't happen, and if you want to maybe talk about why without just trying to say, fire Brown, hang around. But if you just want to gripe, there are places that really like people who gripe. So you'd be much more at home there. First of all, if we lose the players, we lose a lot. And I think if they fired Brown now, they would lose a lot of the players, possibly most of them. I don't think there's any chance in the world that Wren Baker is going to fire Brown now or at the end of the year. I mean, there would have to be a total collapse for that to happen, because Wren Baker actually understands what Brown is doing, what the problems are. Wren Baker is a smart man who sees the big picture. He does not just go on emotion. Let's see, I think. Gripe. And of course, Green throws two bad passes, or one bad pass and one that gets tipped for an interception. Somebody has to, say, bring in Nico. Nick DTV, I don't know if you are still in here. A heck of a long time ago, you said you were leaving, and then you made multiple comments after that. Well, folks, we have 23 people in here, 4 or 5 of whom are commenting, 2 of whom are actually doing something worthwhile with their comments. The rest of you are just gripers, knee-jerk, simple answer, either or. You're not adding anything to the conversation. So I do ask, please, if you aren't subscribed, don't subscribe. And I desperately need subscribers to get to the 500 mark. But I don't want you. I don't need subscribers that badly. I want people who are here to discuss football and ideas related to football. And that means things, like, okay, oh, gee, where was it? Kirk H., get the F out of here. Get the F out of here. You're just here, again, you're here to make trouble. Talk is Pitt is just here to make trouble. Yeah. Okay. And Kirk H., you're not even from this conference. So, okay, I don't want to deal with this. I got too much going on in my life to deal with crap. I am about to ban everybody who does nothing but talk trash. So here we go. You're out. You're out. Let's see. I'll let him stay in until I check one of his claims. And got rid of a couple of them. Let's go ahead, get rid of that additional. All right. Okay, folks. We have, is it Kansas State coming up next week? Yeah, coming to Morgantown. Another night game. The team tonight was not as good as they were against Oklahoma State. They were actually better than they were against Kansas, even though they beat Kansas. Of course, come on, Iowa State ranked number 11. They are not a flashy team. They are a solid team, as one of the people here mentioned. They don't make many mistakes. That was a winning approach. I expect to play better next week. I hope they bring more pressure. The pressure worked tonight when they brought it, although we did get one holding call and one pass interference call when the pressure actually forced a bad pass. So I think they're still trying to protect the defensive backs a little bit, but the defensive backs are improving. Coverage most of the night was good, not great. Again, they'd give up 7 yards when it was 6 to the first down. That is an improvement. They're playing closer. I want to see more hard hits after the catch, more of the kind of play that did force Gallagher to drop that one pass. I think we'll see more of that. We saw some good tackles. Hollis and Wilson both had really good hits. It's just, again, it's not quite enough, but I think it will get better. I still think they have the potential to, run the table from here, which would mean 1 conference loss. They may end up with 2 conference losses. I don't think they'll lose 3 in the conference. It's not as good as I expected them to do this season. Neither the offense nor the defense has been as good as I expected, or at least as good as I hoped. But I can see a good team in this. When they play near their potential, they're excellent. They're not quite doing that. They do it at times. They don't do it. Sometimes they do it just enough, and tonight it was not quite enough. Okay. This I don't know if this account just likes making old jokes, or if they are, yeah, being sarcastic. I don't know. But anyway. Well, I do hope Colorado or Kansas State wins that game. I'll need to check on that. I mean, Kansas State traditionally plays very hard football. You know, not just under this coach, but at least the last two coaches. They play clean football. Again, I haven't checked this season, but they typically don't make a lot of mistakes. It will be a hard game, but and I get Avery Johnson is going to be a challenge. We'll have to see. He'll probably be the best running quarterback we face. I know some people expected that from Jalen Daniels, but coming back from two devastating injuries, I did not really expect him to pick up where he left off. People expected the same of Cam Rising, and that obviously has not happened. I don't think you could get away with an extension at this point. I think a lot of people would throw a fit. But yeah, his recruiting, a lot of people, the numbers don't put him in the top, 30, but he recruits with precision. He recruits he recruits players, he recruits rooms, he recruits a team. We aren't. I mean, we're going to lose Milam, but Williams looks to be. I'm not going to say he's as good, but he'll be very good. I really thought that the team would play better together this season. I'm not sure why they haven't. It was the team aspect that won several of the games last year, that won the Oklahoma State game in 2022. It has not quite come together the way I expected. The talent is there. The recruiting is there. You, for heaven's sakes, look at the quarterbacks. Garrett Green, Nico Marchiol, Ryder Burton, Khalil Wilkins, Scotty Fox, Brody McWhorter. There has never in the history of WVU been a string of quarterbacks like that. Now, obviously, Fox and McWhorter have not actually come to campus. Fox will be next year, McWhorter the year after. Things happen. We'll see. Wilkins, he's here. He won't play this year, probably not next year. But that's actually the way it's designed. And I think this is critical, and people do not understand this. Garrett Green stayed, even though he wasn't playing, because he was being coached. He was being taught. Nico Marchiol has stayed for the same reason. And you could see the results of that in last week's game. Marchiol will take over next year, almost certainly. Can't rule out Ryder Burton. But I believe Burton came here because he knew he would be coached. He would be taught. Um, you could actually say quarterbacks are coming to West Virginia because they aren't going to play their first, usually not second year, sometimes not the third year. They'll play fourth and fifth year. But if you can get into this sequence where you are bringing quarterbacks along carefully and always have three guys who could play, that's your goal. Right now we have Green, Markill, and Burton who are ready to play. I mean, with Burton, we probably would have to change the offense a bit. With Markill, we saw he can run the whole thing. That is high quality recruiting, and Brown is trying to do it in every room. The defensive backs have not reached that level. It's been the hardest one. They had to bring in 6 transfers. That has kind of, it was necessary, and at the same time, it's kind of messed things up because getting that many guys to settle into the system has proven difficult. I really think that has been the big issue. Um, Hopefully, the guys who are redshirt freshmen and freshmen this year will be ready next year. um, UCF has had problems this season. I don't know what they did this week. Anybody, I forget who they were. Were they playing Cincinnati this week? I've lost track. I don't follow the other games all that closely. But UCF has had some issues. They were expected to. How many teams were expected to be much better than they have? Oklahoma State is not the team they were expected to be, and I think that's on Gundy for how he handled the Gordon situation. I think he really seriously messed that up, and I think the team doesn't like it. And I think Gordon has lost his way. I think that incident was more than just an individual incident. I think it showed something that's going on with him. Again, that's guesswork, but I've dealt with people that age a lot. It's a big transition, and a lot of crap happens in anywhere from 16 to 22, 25. Um, a lot of crap happens. But yeah, say especially 18 to 21. Really, you whether or not anybody is quite sane at that age is questionable. Um, but oh shoot, I completely lost track of what I was saying. Oh yeah, Arizona has not been nearly as good as expected, but Arizona State has been much better than expected. BYU's been better than expected. Um, Utah has not played nearly as well as expected with or without Cam Rising. Um, you know, Baylor has done as badly as expected, unfortunately. Houston had a really good game. They have not played better than expected overall, but the ups and downs, are just, it's college football. Come on, Alabama kind of sucks. They won today, but they did not win by playing well. Coaching changes and all of that, but you know, maybe it really was just Saban. Paul Brown and Saban. You look in between, and Alabama had issues. Um, but okay, let me see here. Uh, okay, yeah. Well, this was Joy Downs. Thanks. 1913 to Cincinnati. Again, Cincinnati was not expected to be good. I think they were picked, I don't know, a lot of teams, picked in the bottom four or so. Of course, unpredictable when you have so many changes. I don't know what UCF's problem has been. Uh, I mean, they've got a guy who's known to be a good coach. Good coaches have bad years and bad stretches. Sometimes, it's because they lose focus. Sometimes it's because crap happens. I mean, there have been so many seasons in football where a team has a great season just because the ball bounced their way every time. And the next year, the bounces, you know, compensate, and the team does badly. It's Well, I appreciate the subscribing. Awesome is a bit of a question. uh, was the awesome part, wasn't it? I don't quite get that. And, yeah, I mean, I think he can. Um, if we run the table and get to the conference championship, anything can happen. But yeah, I mean, it's, of course, for the conference championship, it's primarily the conference record that gets you there. For bowl games, it's the overall record. So where we might end up, I don't know, but I think we can still get to a good bowl game. Um, and you know, he's not going to lose the team, and that's a big thing. Um, and I mean, it was the adversity in the Pittsburgh game that probably won the Kansas and Oklahoma State games. So I do expect the players to strengthen their focus because Neil Brown does try to recruit players who eat adversity. It's part of their nutritional program. I do expect the players to come back better because of what went wrong tonight. Um, it's still, I mean, it's hard, I mean, as fans, we don't want to have to, wait for next week. And as players and coaches, they don't, everybody would have rather won. Um, you know, I think generally speaking, you'd rather win a bad game than lose a good one. And in this case, they lost a bad one. Um, but okay, so why did you go from this Neil Brown is a good coach to will end up in a crappy bowl? You're making me, wonder about identity. You know, anyway, we seem to have lost some of the regulars. And Seymour is dominating here, and I have questions about that. Yeah. I mean, trust is a different issue. I do trust him. Again, I think I understand what he's doing because he's the coach I wish I'd had for any sport I ever played. I understand his thinking. I understand. I think I do. I mean, I've never talked to him. I mean, I'm pretty sure I understand what the problems were in the first 4 years. What the problem is this year is the mystery. That, again, defensively, I think it's mostly bringing in 6 new defensive backs, 4 of whom were very deeply ingrained in their previous program, played there 3-4 years, and the transition has been rough. But I don't understand the problems on offense. Um, there are some things happening and not happening there that have me confused. I think I understand, why Green is up and down. I may be wrong about that. It's a reasonable explanation, but that doesn't make it the right explanation. But we just, we cannot find a consistent, I'm kind of surprised they didn't use 3 tight ends tonight. I that worked well last week, but just because it works well one week doesn't mean you can do it every week. Other teams will adjust. First of all, it is possible to be a CEO and a buddy. Second, it depends on what you really think is most important. And I mean, Neil Brown, it's not a matter of CEO or buddy. Neil Brown is a teacher. And if you think back in school and you think about some teachers, they just wanted you to fill in the blank. You knew what they wanted, you could do it and go your way. Other teachers particularly tried to get you to think. Some like that, some don't. Neil Brown is that kind of teacher. I think he's a hard teacher. He certainly, has forced Garrett Green to work. And Garrett Green, that's why Garrett Green loves him, not because he's nice, but because he makes him work. And Neil Brown, believes that it doesn't matter how good you are today, you should be better tomorrow. So you don't get to just, slide along on what you did the week before. I think Neil Brown is a much harder coach than people realize. And of course, a lot of it still depends on the assistant coaches, and nobody really tends to accuse them of being too nice. But I don't know. Actually, Ben Franklin was a philosopher, not so much a teacher. He was a philanderer. He was a very intelligent man who just kind of liked to go his own way. He couldn't coach anything because Ben Franklin was not a team player. Yeah. Now, of course, I like that and don't like it. I don't want necessarily Kansas State to be that good. But I personally want to see Colorado lose every game as long as Sanders is there. I don't think Sanders will be there very long because I do think he's there for his kids. He may stay a year after, but I don't think he'll stay much beyond that. And I definitely, I'm sorry, I don't even consider him a coach. It's time to produce. I do not, Baker would have to think. First of all, Baker believes that Brown is a good coach. I believe Brown's a good coach. Good coaches don't always succeed. That's the weird thing. You can be good at what you do and still not succeed. Boy, do I know that. Um, but I don't think Baker will make a change unless unless he just believes Brown can't do the job. And I don't see Baker coming to that decision. Um, Baker is very particular about the type of coach he wants, and Brown is that type of coach. That was the big surprise when they hired Baker. I don't know who the push was behind hiring Baker, but they did something special in that regard. Um, yeah. Yeah, well, I don't care. And actually, well, of course, yeah, you're looking at Jacksonville State or wherever it was he came from, um, where he was playing with P4 quality players who came in because of his name and playing against, quite honestly, lesser players. He thought he could do the same thing at Colorado, but it turns out that recruiting P4 players to play against P4 teams doesn't make it easier. Sanders cannot put together a team. He just has 11 players on the field at any given time, but they are never ever a team. Last year's team, when faced with adversity, crumbled. I have a feeling this team hasn't been faced with much adversity yet. If they are, I expect them to crumble. Yeah. So let's see here. Yeah, fan. Well, no, I don't think it'll. If Brown wins, of course, it's not just winning; it's how they win. If the offense is flashy, fans will come back in a hurry. If they just win, last season the wins early were grinded out kind of wins, and that doesn't bring fans back quickly. Um, but I simply think Brown will put it together. I think the team will put it together. Brown's teams play better usually as the season progresses. Um, Hopefully that trend continues this season. Um, Maybe they would, maybe they wouldn't. They've got fast receivers, which could present a problem. But what you do in a single game or such is not what it means to be a coach. Or let's say there are two kinds of coaches essentially. There are those who are all about winning and nothing else, and there are those who are about the players. Brown has made that clear. He considers football to be about learning how to be a better person. Winning is still, what you want to do. He is not going to sacrifice uh, the character of the program or the character of the players for a win. Some people will sacrifice anything for a winning season, uh, and some people won't. And that's been the one of the major differences between people, at least as far back as history goes, and I would assume as far back as humans go. Now the air raid, the air raid is flashy. It's not the only flashy offense. Rich Rodriguez had a flashy spread offense that was usually run heavy, and it ran into Pittsburgh and got crushed because he turned it into a very predictable offense. I think Pitt knew the reads and could force West Virginia into a certain read and then beat them to the spot because they knew exactly what West Virginia was going to do. I mean, Rich Rodriguez only had about 5 plays. He didn't disguise them all that much, and he absolutely refused to help Pat White learn to pass better. That's why, I mean, as soon as Bill Stewart took over, one of the first things he said was that the team was too predictable, did not pass downfield enough, specifically down the middle. The one big change he made before the Fiesta Bowl was to tell Calvin McGee to open the offense. He did. We saw the result. If Rich Rodriguez had been coaching the Fiesta Bowl, Oklahoma would have pounded, West Virginia. It would have been what people predicted. They would have known exactly what West Virginia was going to do. I mean, the players getting paid is a new thing. Let's say players getting paid above the table is a new thing. It's going to take a while to sort that out again. I think it's probably why Ollie Gordon is having a bad season, whether he gets himself straightened around or not. It's going to cause a lot of problems for a lot of players. I think Neil Brown and his staff will be one of the very best at trying to get through this, partly by recruiting players who are not money motivated. And that doesn't mean they don't want money. It just means that money is not their number one reason for what they do. Garrett Green would rather take less money to play at West Virginia. And probably the same about Marchiol and several other players. They want to be here. We had players in the past. Oh, hey, come here and we'll pay you this, or we'll, treat you in this way or that way, and they left. Well, we're still going to lose some that way, but not nearly as many, because players want to be here and they want to do a good job. They want to do a good job for the team, for the program, for the state, and for Neil Brown and their position coaches. Again, why that hasn't had a better effect, I'm of two minds on that. I mean, I think in some respects, Brown would be better off if he didn't have to focus as much time on being an OC, but it would have to be the right OC. I think Chad Scott, because they work well together, they trust each other, they understand each other. He is the OC. He doesn't call plays. And I think Chad Scott is a very good OC. Maybe he will take over calling plays if he doesn't get hired after this season, to be a head coach someplace. But I think some of the play designs are coming from Chad Scott, or worked out between Scott and Brown, and sometimes the other coaches. Everybody has some input. But yeah, I mean, Chad Scott, good OC. Brown may need to give him more responsibility, but he'd still be involved in creating the game plan. So I don't know how much. Now, McDonald's, are you referring to that company, that fast food restaurant that has been going down the toilet slowly for several years, that thinks painting their restaurants black and gray is a good idea? Yeah. I mean, I haven't been in a McDonald's in about 3 years. And actually, McDonald's was a very small company until a guy from Europe with a degree in the classics presented a business plan that, streamlined the whole operation, made it possible to put a McDonald's in every small town in the country and make a profit. And it was all about speed. It was about efficiency, not so much about quality. And McDonald's became a massive company because of that. And then, they forgot it. And, now last time I was in a McDonald's, it was a mess trying to get food from the kitchen to the drive-through window and to the front counter. There was like a 2-foot wide window for everything to pass through. McDonald's is not a company you want to use as an example of good operation. Yeah. The play calling is not the problem. Execution is the problem. People do not distinguish. There were a lot of well-called plays, well-called, drives. Execution messed things up. That's, let's see. McDonald's. It's not about McDonald's. If you want to be metaphorical, you don't pick a name like McDonald's. So the problem would be your writing. And I do know that because I am a professional. So, and hey, would you really enjoy it if I told you my mother died of brain cancer when I was 7 years old? So don't use that as an example. Yeah. Why do these people come to my show? I don't know what draws them here. There's nothing here they want. They're only here to cause trouble. I would think they would come in, they would look at, what I'm saying, if not what some of the other people have said, and say, hey, I don't like this guy. I don't agree. I disagree with him so entirely that I see no point. And then you'd think they would leave. But they keep coming. Anyway, it's been an hour and almost 20 minutes. I have spent way too much of my time just trying to untalk crap. Didn't get to talk near as much about the game as I would like. I will be doing a video either Sunday or Monday, the way things are going, probably Monday, to give a better analysis of the game, particularly after I've watched the the press conferences from tonight. We're talking schizophrenia. Yeah, okay. I got to assume that's sarcasm. Okay, folks, I appreciate the people who came. I apologize. I know it was a loss. The game was not pretty, but I don't really think that's an excuse for some of the people who just wanted to repeatedly say negative things without precision. Now, some people said, hey, we did this. We should have tried this. That we can talk about. People who just want to say, Neil Brown sucks, the team sucks. That serves no purpose. My channel is because I like to think. I consider thinking to be a good thing. I want to try to get other people to think. So anyway, well, let's see. You say McDonald's, then you say it's not about McDonald's, it's some metaphorical McDonald. And, you know, you make a reference to my mother. I know it's an old joke, but still. Um, and, then you say good show. Um, that's confusing. Yeah. Um, yeah, Larry, I mean, I know people are mad, but some of them come here specifically because they want to cause trouble. If they're just wanting to be mad, there are other shows where the, you know, everybody there will be mad with them. They want to rant, the other people will rant, but they come here where I'm trying to actually talk about what happened, what didn't happen, and my favorite subject, why. Because, I mean, why is where thinking happens. And, they want to just shout. They want to try to shout loud enough to stop anyone from thinking. And that's why I get rid of them once if they just keep trash, trash, trash with no discussion, I ban them. And that's going to be my policy. It may just be, hey, if you make 3 comments that are just trash and no thought, people will get banned. And maybe it'll put me out of business. Maybe people will end up coming because it is where they can talk about things in a more thoughtful manner, even when they're mad. I don't know. I know there are people out there like that. I'm having trouble reaching them. But now Seymour, I'm not mad at you. It's just that, well, actually, kind of like Julie, some of your comments conflicted one another, or that's not the contradicted one another, which confused me. And you have to admit, a screen name Seymour Butts, whether it's under the bleachers or not, does raise questions. And since I have banned, well, one person I have banned under 2 identities, I have, call it paranoia. It's not that I'm mad at you. You are kind of inflaming my paranoia at times. And I mean, if it's not, you've said it's not intentional. I accept that. So, hey, it's in my head. But you know, so I apologize for questioning you. You have trouble trusting Neil Brown. I have trouble trusting a lot of people commenting. And hey, I never contradict myself. I just don't always agree with myself. Or as the saying goes, I thought I was wrong once, but it turned out I was mistaken. Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely paranoid. There's no 2 ways about it. I've got a couple of people who have decided they take pleasure in trying to poke me. They know I'll respond. And so, I just kind of have the fear of those people coming in under other identities and trying to poke. So, yeah, um, you'll just have to tell me to, simmer down and, yeah. I would say take my medication, but none of my medications are for that. Maybe they should be. That is a possibility. Um, but anyway, um, eh, we learn from sorrow. I wish we learned from joy. We don't. Yeah. I see the saying, you learn from your mistakes. We never stop to learn from the things we do right. And we usually don't learn the right things from what we do wrong. Anyway, guys, I appreciate you being here. Um, I do have cats who have not been fed. Fortunately, I managed to get them medicated at halftime. Uh, uh, Actually, yeah, I commented on this, but I didn't put it up. Of course, whether or not sorrow is your gain depends on you. Um, to some degree, we can control what experiences we have, but mostly it's about trying to control what we do with the experiences. Uh, we don't have total free will, but we have some, and we probably should make better use of what we have. Um, yeah, I'm not going to, I'll settle for every other day. Um, oh, I think I may have to work up to that. Thank you, Brian, for being here. Um, didn't have a lot of regulars here tonight, and actually haven't had a lot of the regulars on the channel for the other videos. Anybody who's not subscribed, I think the ones who were here just to talk crap, I have already banned. So I'm not worried about them subscribing. But yeah, I appreciate guys being here. I do need to go. I have to feed, like I say, feed the cats. Well, just remember that I do. Turns out I still have buttons that can be pushed. Thought I had most of them taken care of. It turns out that some of them are still around. Um, Maybe having gotten rid of a few people, one of whom I expect will probably come back in another uh, identity, but I can ban them then. But if I get short-tempered, testy, and paranoid, just be a little patient with me and tell me to settle down. Well, I'm glad. I know a couple of the other YouTube creators mention me from time to time, but their people have not come over in droves. So I'm glad that you found a link or a comment and made it over here. Hopefully, we will become online friends and find some mutual things to discuss. And please go back to the channel and do some binge watching. There are some good videos on there. I'm actually kind of pleased with some of the things I've said. And there are things on there that you will not find on any other West Virginia channel. So how many of them are right remains to be seen, but you won't find them on any other channel. All right, guys. I definitely have to feed cats. And since I do have to get up in a little over 7 hours, I'm not going to get the sleep I need tonight. which is something of an issue. It's also probably why my temper is not as controlled and balanced as it should be. So I'm going to sign off. Thanks for dropping in. I will do my best to come up with more things for you to watch and think about. And hopefully, we'll take things from there and have happier things to talk about around this time next week. Hey, while people are saying good things, I will put them up here quickly. And, Julie, you shouldn't watch all of them. Some of them are bad. I do not know what percentage. Some of them, the visuals just really suck rocks. I apologize for that. Doing what I can. And hey, how do you know? You may get hooked. You may just say, hey, pour me another cup of coffee. I have to watch this next video. If you do, I suggest getting psychiatric counseling. And if you watch all of the videos, hey, then you can go to my hyperthyroid cat channel. You can go to my Thoughts and Mutters channel. You can just have a good time, and then you'll really be able to keep some therapist in money for a long time. All right, guys, I'm signing off. I am getting punchy. Good night.